Happy Thursday. Welcome to the Wolff Den. I am Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today's guest is Sean Gibson, the president of Josh Gibson Foundation.
Yep, executive director, same thing. So the
executive
boss.
Director, president, all things Josh Gibson Foundation. The Wolff Den is presented by In the Club Room, part of Win Again Academy. Great to have you here, Sean. I'm really excited about the conversation today. A lot of stuff going on, and looking forward to diving everything into all of it. So welcome to the show. And tell everybody, I guess, to start who you are and why you're here. And then we'll get into the particulars.
Well, as you mentioned, my name is Sean Gibson. I'm the great-grandson of Josh Gibson. I live here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I run the Josh Gibson Foundation. Been running a foundation for about 17 years. And the main thing that we do is focus on inner city kids. We provide athletic scholarships and academic programs. We have over 300 kids in our program. We have 3 sites here in the city of Pittsburgh. We are a partner of the City of Pittsburgh Parks and Recs Department. And we're also a partner of the City of Pittsburgh Public Schools. And so the main focus was to definitely keep Josh Gibson's legacy alive, but also the other great Negro League baseball players and the 2 great teams of Pittsburgh, Crawfords and the Grays. And so it's very exciting to carry on the legacy of Josh Gibson's name to young people today. Even though last year was a bad year first for the pandemic, we was able to stay afloat. We haven't seen our kids in a while because everything is virtual now. Yeah. And so we're hoping that one day we get back to see our kids soon in person. We see them on the video screen, but not in person. So, but yeah, it's just, we're excited to carry on the legacy of Josh Gibson to these young people.
Yeah, well, so we're going to get into the, seeing them in person. My boy Corey always a supporter of the show, always saying hi. So if you have any questions for Sean or comments, please put them in the comments and we'll highlight them here. But let's take a step back because I know who Josh Gibson is, but why don't you tell everyone who Josh Gibson is for the people who don't know who Josh Gibson is? Which everyone should know Josh Gibson the way they know Babe Ruth, but unfortunately not everyone does. So tell us who Josh Gibson was.
Well, first of all, he was a great person, number one. We all know about Josh Gibson's baseball career, his baseball greatness, but he was a great man, great family man. Josh, we all know his story, but Josh also was a single parent. Josh's wife died giving birth to their twins. So he raised twins as a single parent. Some people don't know this story, but he actually wanted the doctor to save his wife and let the twins go, but it was already too late. And so he started his career off that way as a 17-year-old baseball player, just newly married, just newly becoming a father, and also a widower. So that could tell you something about his life right there. But getting on to his baseball career, we all know that he had a sterling baseball career, played for the 2 of the greatest teams in the Negro League, the Homestead Grays and the Pittsburgh Crawfords. And so when you talk about Josh Gibson's baseball career, you talk about a guy that played the game because he loved the game. And I want to say this too, is that without Josh Gibson, if it wasn't for Rube Foster, I would say there would be no Josh Gibson. And I think Rube gets left a lot of these conversations. He gets left out. For those who don't know who Rube Foster is the guy who actually created and founded the Negro Leagues. I believe that if it wasn't for Rube Foster, there would be no Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige, Cool Papa Bell, the rest of these guys. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary last year, but due to the pandemic, a lot of things were on hold. And so, as you mentioned about Josh Gibson and Babe Ruth, you always hear the comparison of Josh Gibson to Black Babe Ruth, but we always say Babe Ruth is the white Josh Gibson.
Yeah.
And so, I say that, I say that strongly because, Josh Gibson hit the furthest home run in Babe Ruth's house, right? 580 feet home run in Yankee Stadium. And so, but, he had a great career, died young, 47, the same year Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. So I never had a chance to see any of the African-American players cross over. And so died of a brain tumor. And so, right now we're carrying his legacy through the Josh Gibson Foundation.
Yeah, and so you're rooted in Pittsburgh. Is it because that's where he really started to dominate the Negro Leagues? Is that how you're staying there, or that's just where you guys grew up?
Right. No, that's where we live.
Oh, that's where you live.
That's where I live. Josh was born in a small town called Buena Vista, Georgia, about 2 hours outside of Atlanta, about 45 minutes from Columbus, Georgia. They moved to Pittsburgh. He was 11 years old. His father, Mark Gibson, found work here in the steel mills here in Pittsburgh, and that's how the family ended up coming up north, and been here since. So now we're here based off of this is where we were born. That's where I was born and raised in Pittsburgh. Josh played his career, of course, and he died here in Pittsburgh. At the Allegheny Cemetery here in Pittsburgh. But that's why we're stationed here because of this is where we're born and raised at.
So I have a weird question for you. My dad died in 2005, and I used to visit the cemetery. It's in New Jersey, and I'm in Florida. I used to visit the cemetery. Do you visit the cemetery? Is that something of importance to you? Is it almost like a tourist spot for people? I hate to ask that, but I'm guessing it might be somewhat of.
I visit the cemetery a lot. My grandfather, Jr., as well as Josh Gibson Cemetery. But it's funny you asked that question because it is a tourist attraction, and I get a lot of emails or calls asking me to meet them there at Josh's gravesite. And so, his gravesite is one of the most popular sites at the Allegheny Cemetery. And so what they did to make you find it easier because his gravesite sits on top of a hill.
Okay.
And all the headstones on that hill are flat. So there are markers that lead you to Josh Gibson's site because it's one of the most visited sites. Then there's a sign right before it. It goes up to the hill that says Josh Gibson, and it has a marker that shows where his gravesite is at. So, I've been visiting. I will tell you this. The past few years, I've been there more often because, like I said, there's a lot of people that come in from out of town who wants to visit his site and ask if I'm available to come meet them there and talk about it. So, yes, his site is very well received and very well visited.
Yeah, I figured that would be. And then you get some of the stuff in the news where people are like taking selfies at it, and in some places it's like disrespectful, but in some places, and maybe his is like honoring the person and keeping the memory alive. So it's like a fine line depending, obviously etiquette in a funeral. But I've seen some stuff in the news lately of improper behavior at funerals with selfies and, standing on the thing and defacing it. Is there any, I want to get into the Centennial talk because obviously a lot was canceled last year and we're hoping to have it this year, right? At some point this year. But is there any backlash for Josh? I mean, obviously there's a lot of struggles with race in the U.S. Is there people who are fighting against it, and is that making it harder, or is it just not enough people fighting for what you're trying to do? What's the biggest struggle for you right now?
Oh, no, we're not getting any struggles. I mean, right now, it's been great. I mean, Josh is the hottest thing right now. So since MLB made the announcement, he's real hot. But as far as the Centennial, as you mentioned, we had several events planned last year to fundraise for our foundation. We had a Josh Gibson Youth Classic, baseball youth classic that was going to be teams from different cities to represent their Negro League teams, ages 11 and 12. There were also then our symposium with national and local speakers on that symposium to talk about the Negro Leagues. And then our biggest fundraiser would be our Black Tie Gala. And so all those were postponed last year, but we're all scheduled to have them this year. Hopefully we can have them this year in person. Right now, our youth classic is scheduled for August, and then our symposium and gala is scheduled for October. So we pushed them back far enough that hopefully that by that time in August and October, we'll be okay, somewhat okay to have these events. And we're looking to have to raise some money for the foundation. So those are, coming from a small foundation, having these fundraisers or this is part of our fundraising goals. These are big for us. So hopefully we can get this kicked off this year and raise some money for the foundation.
So obviously COVID brings a lot of challenges. When we talk about the events you have in the classic, it's got to be part Pennsylvania is kind of not open, right? And then part you're bringing teams from cities that might not be open. Is there any thought to moving it, or just if it's not a go? I mean, what's your thought on that?
Well, plan B for the Classic is that we might not just bring in teams from other cities. We might just do local.
Yeah.
And that's our plan B action, is just because, like you just mentioned, depending on where these kids are coming from, and it may not just be that the city's open or not. It may be up to the parent. They might not want their kid traveling.
Yeah.
And so our plan B is just to go with the local teams here in Pittsburgh, and all just wear different league uniforms. So that's our plan B. So that's what we're thinking about right now.
And who is this open to? The players. These are little league teams or AAU travel teams. What ages?
Yep, ages 11 to 12. No travel teams. We don't want to get, this is not a travel team tournament, AAU tournament. It's not that, because a lot of our kids, we run a Josh Gibson Academy, and these kids are just average players, and we wanted to focus on that type of age group. So these are, if you want to rank them by A, B, and C, these are B and C average players. They're not A type level. We do have some A type level players, but we do have an all-star team that can compete on that level. But we didn't want to do it that way. So these are more of a BC average kid plan. These kids opportunity as well to be able to showcase their talent as well.
Yeah. Did you play any baseball growing up?
I did not. I did recreational wise, but I played basketball in college. So I went to scholarship to a school called Edinburgh University near Erie, Pennsylvania, and I took my talents in the basketball field. I didn't play baseball. I played it, but I didn't play like my grandfathers did.
Right. Did was it that you just liked basketball? You were better at it. Obviously, you were better at it to be playing at college. But it's funny. Everyone plays baseball, right? We talked about this the other day. Everyone plays soccer. Everyone plays baseball. Most people are getting into playing basketball. It's just what kids do. They play little league, and then it's fun and then some people rise to the occasion and continue to play. Some people find other sports. Youth baseball is big, and so it's great to have that Classic. I'll have to connect you with a couple of people. They do some great stuff for underprivileged kids to help people get access. Because a lot of times it's the money, right? They need a little bit of money to have equipment and to be able to play this thing. So. I'll have to connect you with a few of those people. With regards to the Centennial, is everything going to be the same as it was going to be last year? Are you adding some new stuff? Did you have to get rid of some old stuff? Where are you guys?
Right now, everything is just planned. I mean, everything was planned last year. We just carried over. Like, it's the only thing that changes is that our date, our date is still in October for our symposium and our gala. Only difference is that the Classic was going to be in the summertime.
Okay.
But of course we changed that to August. And so those are the things but everything else is pretty much the same. We're trying to line up our celebrities to come in. We give out something called the Josh Gibson Legacy Award, and that goes to a former MVP player. Major League Baseball player. Our past recipients has been from Lou Brock to Juan Marichal to Reggie Jackson to Barry Bonds to the Clemente family. So we're working on our next awardee for 2021. And so we're just hoping to be able to, like I said, just have something in person, get people out, get people dressed up and have a good time.
How do you pick that award?
Well, it's mainly based off people, what they've done off the field. Their community service work off the field, what they've done. So that's how we usually judge that award by.
Yeah.
We have a committee that works on that.
Okay. Yeah, it's great to see. I mean, there's so many athletes who are doing so much good off the court and off the field. And a lot of people get recognized, right? The ESPYs have stuff and you guys have stuff. And there's a player of the year and man of the year. But there's so many people who don't even get recognized for that stuff. They're not even in the public known, or there's just not enough awards for it. So it's good to, anytime you could recognize someone for their off the field stuff as much as they're on the field. I'm all for it. I love to see that. let's talk a little bit about our hot topics here, right? Negro League baseball and Major League. A lot of stuff in the news. Let's start with their decision to include the Negro League stats in Major League stats. Tell everyone a little bit about what that means for the Negro Leagues, and then also, we discussed this, how it hasn't really been put into action yet. So what's the next step for that, and how do you get there?
Well, first and foremost, what it means is that the Negro League stats will also be included with Major League records now. For us, we got the announcement last year. I think it was mid-December last year. It was very exciting news to hear. It was very surprising that it came out during that time of the year. You guys said we was going through a pandemic, and 2 weeks before the end of the year, we get this huge announcement that Major League Baseball is going to include Negro League stats into their record books. So one, it's a great honor to have Major League Baseball finally recognize these guys.
How good is their stat keeping, by the way? Just, there's always questions about stats and different, metrics between errors. How good is their stat keeping?
Well, I will say this: for Major League Baseball to make the announcement, they must have did their homework. I don't think they would make the announcement without doing their homework. Seam Hits is the official records keeper database for Negro League stats. From what I've been told, talking to some of the historians, they've been working on these stats for over 20 years.
Yeah.
But this is nothing that happened overnight. And so the records are pretty much, I want to say they're about 75 to 80% completed. And so what Major League Baseball is getting is a pretty good compiled stats of the great Negro League baseball players and their statistics. And so with that being said, it's an honor, but I will say this, the Gibson family always considered Josh Gibson a major leaguer anyway. Just didn't get played in major leagues. I always consider Josh Gibson as one of the greatest baseball players ever. Now that he'll be included into Major League stats, now we can just say, before it was more of Matt, was Josh Gibson was considered one of the greatest black baseball players, and Babe Ruth was considered one of the greatest white baseball players. But now you can say Josh Gibson one of the greatest baseball players, period. There's no black and white issue now.
Well, there always
will.
There shouldn't be. That's
Right.
For another conversation.
Right.
What records does he hold? Is he going to hold when it's all said and done?
Right now, 1943, he hit 441. If that stands, he'll be the all-time single batting average leader, 441. Right now, he's second behind Ty Cobb in overall batting average, and then he's fifth on base percentage. And then he'll also be in the top 5 in slugging percentage. And so when people was asking me the questions about Josh Gibson's home runs, I said, okay, listen, I'd rather, would I take him being a home run king in that one category only, or would I have Josh in several categories in the top 5?
Obviously a well-rounded player, not just – and that 441 is – I don't care where you're playing. It's incredible. That's a record. And when you talk about records that might never be broken, even if you didn't include that, and we went, 400, that's probably never going to be broken. So when you start talking about 441, now you're raising the bar ridiculously high. How many games was that?
Particularly games, I think what they consider, about 75 to 80 games.
That's impressive. That's impressive. Well, great. I know we're also, here, if you look in the bottom, JG20 MVP, you've made a push for the MVP award to be renamed the Josh Gibson MVP award. How is that going? How can we support that? I'd love to see him acknowledged any way he can, because it's been so long where he hasn't had proper acknowledgement. What's that program or campaign look like, and how can we help?
Yeah, so the campaign started back last year. a campaign that we didn't even know we was going to be in at first, because I just happened to read an article. Ben Walker from the Associated Press did an article about Kennesaw Mountain Landis. And at that time, there was a lot of Black Lives Matters movement going on. And 3 former MVP players came out, Terry Pendleton, Barry Larkin, and Mike Schmidt. They came out and said that, you know, they felt as though Kennesaw Mountain Landis' name should be removed off of the MVP award. And as I'm reading the article, I get further down, they said, well, the names they're considering is Branch Rickey, Frank Robinson, and Josh Gibson. We had no clue Josh was even in the names, was even in the running. And so I remember going back to my board of directors and my committee, and I said, hey, listen, we just found ourselves in a race. Let's see how we can win this race. And so we have a great marketing campaign, our MVP T-shirts that we have on our site. And so before that, though, I did an article for ESPN Undefeated based on why we felt as though Josh should be a great candidate for the MVP. And it was based on poetic justice, redemption. You know, so how it would be more of how ironic would it be for Josh Gibson to replace the same guy who denied him an opportunity to play in the majors. And I will say this, Matt, you know, yes, if Josh was to win this award, the name would be named after Josh Gibson. We all know that. But it's not just about Josh Gibson. It's about the 3,400 men that were denied the opportunity to play in Major League Baseball. So Josh Gibson will be carrying all those guys on his shoulders. And so it's not just about one person. It's be about 3,400 men. And so that's our story of why we feel as though Josh is not only a good candidate, but a great candidate, because it's not representing just one person, it's representing 3,400 men. And so, you know, for more information, like you said, our website is there, jg20mvp.com, to learn more about why we feel as though Josh is a great candidate. You know, read our stories, read the articles. And it's been exciting, though. Got a lot of support, a lot of people behind it. There's a petition, you know. I will encourage you to sign a petition. You know, it's on our website as well. You know, so far, you know, I will say this. After December 16th, when the announcement came out, we got a lot of momentum. So I would say that was one thing that did help, is that when the announcement came at the MLB stats, when MLB was going to integrate the stats, that gave Josh a lot of momentum. So we're hoping that, you know, and this is an award that people ask me all the time. This is not an award through Major League Baseball. This is through the Baseball Writers Association.
Yeah.
So if people say, well, MLB, I say it has nothing to do with MLB. It's through the Baseball Writers Association who votes on this. And so we're hoping that, you know, another question people ask me, you know, we don't know anything that's going on. We don't know when it's going to happen. We're just waiting to make the announcement and see what happens.
The question is, it's going to happen. We just don't know who it's going to be renamed for. Is that the scenario we're in?
Right. And we don't know when it's going to happen.
But it's going to happen.
I'm assuming. Yeah.
That's what they said.
Right.
That's what they said. Well, a lot, you know, so you mentioned the Black Lives Matter thing. I got to assume that, you know, that kind of brings some of the stuff that's going on to the forefront. Is it a wave you ride? Is it, obviously you're doing your own thing, and this, you know, my opinion, all this stuff stands on its own. But as you said, this causes them to maybe rethink the award. And I know the Kansas City just changed their minor league team to the Monarchs. So there's, you know, they're adding the stats. There's a lot. It's all kind of, you know, separate, but all, you know, around the fact that these people need to be recognized. And, you know, it's far past the time to do it. And maybe just the whirlwind, the timing was right to sort of give you guys a boost. Do you feel that way? I mean, how do you feel about everything that's gone on? Obviously, it's a terrible situation to actually have to go, but we try and find silver linings and the positives of things.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of things has happened because of the Black Lives Matter. I get that question asked a lot. If Black Lives Matter wasn't going on, do you think MLB would integrate the stats? I don't know, you know. But we got the first female Bianca Smith. You think if Black Lives Matters, you think she'd be the first Black female MLB coach? I don't know. There's a lot of things that's happening right now. So, but like you said, it's a wave. Ride the wave while you can and take advantage of it and see what happens. But I think, my whole thing is this, Matt, is that whoever's making these decisions, I hope they are sincere. Just don't do it because there's a movement going on. If you're really about social injustice, be sincere about it, and just don't take advantage of the moment. That's all.
Yeah, it's really a black and white issue, and I say that in the sense that the people who are running the show and making the decisions, there's a real good old boy network, and they've been around for a long time, and they have these feelings that, and I have this conversation in race, and again, that's for a whole nother call, but the people, it's very hard to change their opinion. So what I think is we need to get rid of those people who aren't open to the ideas of, hey, this is something that should be going on. It's definitely a delicate situation. People are upset about, this person was named this. The fact that is, as long as they're qualified, it doesn't matter, right? It shouldn't matter. Any of this shouldn't matter. And if there's someone deserves to be recognized, they should deserve to be recognized. I had this chat with Todd Radom. We disagreed about whether or not Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame. He's all over the Hall of Fame. He's not a member. He broke a rule. He thinks it was because he's just never felt any remorse for anything. I think he probably should just be in there, put an asterisk, whatever. You have the Hall of Fame not entering any people this year. I don't, that seems weird to me, but, there's certainly people worthy of it. What's your feeling about, this environment with the Hall of Fame and including and not including? What would you do if you were a voting member?
Well, you mentioned Todd. Todd's a good friend of mine as well. Todd actually did our logo. He did. Yeah.
He's great.
Our Centennial. You brought his name up. Great guy, man. Great guy. He did our Centennial logo, and people love it. So we all know his graphic design expertise, and great guy, great friend. I don't know. It's funny you said that because the same people that has to vote on the MVP award didn't vote any Hall of Famers. So, like you said, there probably was some people that deserve to get into the Hall of Fame. This, I think, they said it's the third time ever this has happened.
Been a while, I think.
Yeah. And so, I've met Pete Rose several times. When I was younger, my grandfather, Josh Gibson Jr., when he was alive, they used to go on his Negro League circuit with Major League Baseball players signing autographs. And when they had a big show, they used to have this big show every year in Chantilly, Virginia. And met Pete Rose several times in Virginia. Big fan of the Negro Leagues. Always gave those guys a lot of respect. One of the few players that would sit down and ask a lot of questions with the Negro League baseball players about the old guys. I remember he asked a lot of questions about Josh Gibson. I remember him asking a lot of questions about Josh Gibson to my grandfather. So, as far as the Baseball Writers Association voting players in, I guess they didn't feel anybody was qualified this year. So that was their decision.
My thing is it needs to be more established what qualifies you for it. And not sometimes it's the eye test and the feel of it, but there's got to be some type of qualification for it. And that was one of the things that Todd said is it's hard to match, things change, like the appearance of this record changes over the years. I think the stats are the stats. And if you think it's good enough today, put it in. If you could have a something later on that says if it determines that they should be, then bring them in. But I don't know. They didn't ask me, so if they ask me, then I'll give my opinion. But a lot of people don't ask me things that I give my opinion for. So that's why we have these shows, so we can have conversations like this. Let's talk a little bit about your family, because so you're involved. You're the executive director of the Josh Gibson Foundation. Is there anyone else in the family who's as passionate about this as you are? How did you get to take the reins of this? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my grandfather, Josh Gibson Jr., actually came with the idea of creating a Josh Gibson Foundation. And at the time was mainly focused on, he just wanted to keep his father's legacy alive. And he felt the best way to do that was to a foundation with inner city youth. And so at the time I was still in college. And so once I got out of college, my major was criminal justice. I had no idea I'd be getting involved with a nonprofit. And so, but I used to travel a lot with my grandfather. Like I said, I used to do a lot of, so Josh Gibson Jr., he also played in Negro Leagues. He played with the Grays in 49 and 50. And he also played in Canada. And he used to always say, that his worst curse was being named Josh Gibson. I said, why do you say that? He said, everybody expects you to be your father. And, he would always say, he was an average player, decent player. He was nowhere near his father. And he said, I had a double curse. One, I'm his son. And two, I got the same exact name.
Yeah. You see that in college athletics a lot. Like now it's kind of somewhat of an advantage for the people to get looked at and maybe get in a better position than they really should be based on their talent. And some people are really, killing out there, like Scottie Pippen Jr. doing great things at Vanderbilt. Like he's going to be in the league. And it's not just because he's a Pippen. He's a great player.
Well, but yeah, it could be a pro and a con. But if you're not as good as your father,
yeah. Well, no one was going to be as good as Gibson the same way. Jordan's kid's never going to be. I mean, Jordan's kid played at UCF, I think.
Right.
Nobody ever heard of it.
Right. So anyway, so my grandfather, started the foundation. I got involved with it when I got out of college. When I got involved, I started adding all the programs. Academic programs, athletic programs, and started growing from there. We do have other family members on the board, non-voting members, definitely involved in the foundation as well. But it is a family foundation. And even though I'm the face of the foundation, even though with even like licensing deals, I take all these information back to my family I don't make a sole decision on myself. It's a family decision. And so whether if it's something to do with the foundation, whether it's something to do with licensing deals, when it comes to Josh Gibson, I take this back to my family, discuss it with them, particulars, and we make a decision on a family basis and go from there. So it is definitely a family foundation. And everything that does with Josh Gibson is around the family.
Yeah. And it's got to give you a great sense of pride just to be, to have that connection to your dad and your grandfather and keeping a legacy alive. I know, my family members who are no longer here, I love just thinking about them and something that reminds me of them. It just gives me such great happiness to think about it, like you're still connected with them. So I think it's great to be able to have that connection with you. And then it's probably just so easy for you to be passionate about something like this, which is another thing that, you can tell when you talk, and I love doing what I'm passionate about. So I can only imagine, how that feels for you.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it's number one to represent your family, and I think my grandfather instilled that in me when I was very young. Your name is all you have. And so we just happen to have somewhat of a famous name. So I take it proudly to represent Josh Gibson, and then not just Josh Gibson, but our brand. We're making this into a brand. And so for us, it's more to our branding about Josh Gibson and his image and how we want to portray him to young people, especially the young people that we serve here in Pittsburgh. And so for me and my family, we take that very seriously. And I've been involved, like I said, with the foundation for about 18 years now. And we're very excited to be able to carry on this legacy. And, hopefully the best is yet to come. We've got some great things coming down the line on Josh, and hopefully be able to carry on his legacy. And then, my kids will be able to carry on the legacy and so forth. But it's great, man. The other good thing is that you get a chance to meet other great family members. I'm friends with Babe Ruth's family, Clemente family, of course, all the Negro League families. We all stay in touch. So, being descendant of a famous baseball player, you get a chance to meet other great family members as well, too, and hear their stories and compare stories and have a good time and have fun, jokes, and it's all fun, man.
my good friend Brian Paul, and I doubt he's watching because he's busy. He's a physical therapist. He has a whole rehab center. But when we were in Gainesville, he was an assistant coach on, and I can't remember who it was, but it was one of Roger Maris's either grandsons or so. He was the coach of the team, and he was coaching with him. And I always thought that was it's just cool, because you probably have 100 stories, and it's just, some people probably get tired of telling the same stories, but some people love to hear these stories over and over again because it's great to talk about. My friends and I rehash stories a million times because it's fun memories. I'm all about, memories. So it's, and I've met some family members of famous people, and it's just, I get it. It's a nice thing to be able to, share trade stories and support one another's, one another, what they're doing. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. My other question for you would be, with the pandemic going on, and you know what? I went on a tangent, and this is not the first time it's happened, but I just forgot what I was about to ask you. Yeah. So I know what I was saying. You were talking about the brand, and I think you guys are doing a great job because I didn't even know that they were considering anyone else for this award. I just thought you guys were making a petition to have the award. So I think it's, you guys are doing a great job with the brand. I love the T-shirt. Again, I follow you, so I see a lot of the stuff that you're posting, having some great conversations. It looks like you're getting a lot of support from Pittsburgh, from the city of Pittsburgh, from maybe the teams around Pittsburgh. How important is that, because you guys are in Pittsburgh, and to have the support of Pittsburgh or any other team? Again, we talk about Kansas City changing their name to the Monarchs. All that stuff is just helping your cause. Every time we talk about the Negro Leagues and just getting visibility for the Negro Leagues, obviously, that's a big part of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I mean, the Pittsburgh Pirates just endorsed Josh, so that was big for us. And the Pirates have been a partner of the Josh Gibson Foundation for a very long time. But for them to publicly come out and endorse Josh Gibson for the MVP award was big for us and our family, as well as for the city of Pittsburgh. The city of Pittsburgh has definitely stepped up and supported this campaign as well. So, Pirates, Derek Shelton, Pirates manager, has supported us. He's getting some great support from some local celebrities on this campaign as well. So, like you said, that's what we want people to think. I mean, there's other people involved in this, but, we understand that when you play in the Negro Leagues, you got to get out there, man. You got to get out there and push it. You know what I mean? Like I said, everybody knows who Frank Robinson is. Everybody knows who Branch Rickey is. A lot of people still know who Josh Gibson is. And I think that's why we're pushing so hard for Josh and getting our campaign out there. And we've been getting great support. And so, again, I owe it all to our marketing team. Our marketing team here in Pittsburgh is great. They've done some great work. They come with some great designs. I just put out a quote yesterday. Reggie Jackson supports Josh Gibson as well. We have some former MVP players and Hall of Famers that have famous quotes about Josh Gibson that we put together. From Walter Johnson to Dizzy Dean. There's a famous quote from Ted Williams that we put out there. We feel as though, people know back in 1966, when Ted Williams was giving his Hall of Fame speech, during his Hall of Fame speech, he mentions that, one day he hopes that Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And, my grandfather, Josh Gibson Jr., always credited Ted Williams for getting guys in the Negro Leagues into the Hall of Fame, because he felt as though if Ted Williams doesn't mention that in his speech, who knows how long it would have took for a Negro League baseball player to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. And as we all know, 5 years later, 1971, Satch goes in, and then 1972, Josh goes in. But, the crazy part, Matt, is that I didn't realize this till later on. I didn't know that Ted Williams' mother was Mexican.
Oh,
and so once I found that out, then I kind of see where he was going, and he hid that. He hid that he never took in because he felt as though he'll be discriminated against.
Of course.
And so it makes sense now why he did mention Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige. in his Hall of Fame speech. So interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Were you? I wasn't. I was born 4 years later. Were you alive? I don't know. I hate asking people how old they are. Were you alive when he got inducted?
Yeah, it was 2.
Someone was just talking about this because I saw it on social media, and people were asking, "Hey, what's the first memory you have?" And I said to myself, I don't really have any firm memories from when I was 2, 3, 4. I know I had some birthday parties. I couldn't tell you when it was, but the kids today, they'll tell you what happened when they were 2 because they were skiing, and they're developing so much faster. So I'm assuming you don't remember being there.
2 years old, man. I don't know. I don't remember nothing of that. I mean, of course, we got photos of him being there. So the Hall of Fame.
Are you an only child?
I have a sister. I
Was
have
she
3 sisters, actually.
older or younger?
I'm the oldest.
Okay, so they weren't alive either, or weren't old enough either.
But, at the Hall of Fame induction, it was my grandfather, Jr., his wife, because he's remarried, and my uncle, who was Josh Gibson III, and my aunt was there.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it was no. People ask me that all the time. It's funny, too, because people say, hey, have you ever met your grandfather? I'm like, I'm not that old, man. I'm like, he died in 1947. But
they were young. He was young when he had your parent or your grandfather.
Right. So Josh Gibson, the baseball player, he was 17 when he had his kids.
Yeah.
And his wife died.
Right.
So, right. Yeah.
So they were young.
My grandfather.
But it's still that'd make you pretty older.
Right. And my grandfather, Jr., he was 15 when his father died.
Okay. So yeah, that's young. That's way too young. My dad was like in his 60s, and that was young. And to lose someone at 47 and it's just way too young. Obviously, it's a different world then. What's your favorite piece of memorabilia for your dad and for Junior and Josh? What do you have something that you like really cherish and is just?
Yeah, his favorite. I have it here at my house. So Josh was in the MVP. He got his MVP trophy. We have his 1941-42 MVP trophy.
Okay.
That he got in Mexico. I mean, not in Mexico, Puerto Rico. And so that was given to me about 10 years ago. Family is so Josh Gibson. I'm gonna say Big Josh. When I say Big Josh, we're talking about
Yeah.
So Big Josh had a brother, Jerry, and a sister, Annie. Aunt Annie lived till she was about 90 years old. Well, Big Josh died in her house. So a lot of his stuff was in her house. When she died, she has 3 daughters. They went to the house and they collect a lot of things. Josh Gibson items that were in the house was this MVP trophy, 1941-42 Puerto Rican League MVP trophy, some passports, some trinkets from him traveling overseas, some souvenirs and things like that. People always ask, do we have any uniforms or catcher's equipment or bats, gloves? None of that stuff. At least they never tell me that. They might be having it. I don't know. And so they gave me the trophy.
That's
awesome. They gave me the trophy. And so I have that here. I don't take it out. It's in a special case downstairs in my game room. And we got it appraised about. They have this show called Hidden Treasure. It's like the Antique Roadshow.
Yeah, crazy. Isn't that show crazy?
Yeah. And we have something here locally called Hidden Treasures. And I took it down there. They've been trying to get me to come down there with this trophy for years. And I said, nah. Because, when families start valuing things, they say, oh, this is worth this much money. Let's. Yeah.
I want a piece of
that. Right. So I did take it down. Because the show kept asking me, and it's called the Heinz History Center, and I'm on their committee. They do a lot of work with us. So I finally went down there. And then it was appraised at $75,000. And that was about 12 years ago. And so, but But yeah, so that's one of the pieces.
Yeah, I just talked about this with someone. I have 3 baseballs that my dad gave me. 2 of them have Jackie Robinson's signature. It's got Willie Mays, Pee Wee Reese, Gil Hodges, Roy Campanella. I don't even know what it is. I don't remember the story when he gave it to me, but I was like, it's short of you giving me life-changing money for my whole entire family. I would never get rid of it. So it's like it doesn't matter if it's worth $75,000 or $150,000 unless someone's giving you a $5 million or $10 million check for the foundation is not going anywhere, right? I mean, that's just the way it is.
Believe me, it'll be in my will too. My kids better not sell it unless they get some big number.
Yeah, I mean, no one. But you know what? Crazy enough, someone might pay it. You never know. People have enough money to do it, and it would be a great keepsake for them, and it'd be a great cause. So that's what we're putting it out there. I get a 1% commission if you get anything over that number. let's talk about. You were about to say something.
No, the other thing we have is Hall of Fame plaque as well. You know, when you get to the Hall of Fame, they give you a replica plaque as well. So, but the only original piece that I have is that 1941-42.
And how about
that I have? There's other things that the family have, but that's the thing that I have.
How about for Junior? What do you have from Junior? Nothing. No batting gloves.
Junior did a great job collecting his father's stuff.
Okay.
Terrible. So all the stuff that we have as memorabilia, Junior collected in our photo archives. He collected a lot of old newspaper clippings and photos of his father. So all that was passed down to me through him.
Wow. I want to talk about movies for a little bit because I'm a big movie fan and there's so many great baseball movies. Someone was telling me the best movie all time was a movie called Long Gone, which I had never even heard of. So a couple questions about movies. Do you have a favorite baseball movie? Because I know the other question is, do you ever talk about doing a movie with regards to Josh? Because I know I can't remember what movie it was, but I think he was in a movie or portrayed in a movie. Was it 61 or there was some movie where I think he was portrayed? Was it the Billy Crystal movie?
No, there was several movies. Not several. There was a couple movies. One is the Bing Along Traveling All-Stars. That was with Billy D. Williams.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
James Earl Jones. Then there was one called Soul of the Game.
That might be it.
That was with Micaiah T. Williams, Blair Underwood. Then of course there was some like some other movies that portray Josh.
Right, that's the one that portrayed him and maybe even like mentioned it in the
right. No, let me just say this, Matt. Like I said, Josh Gibson's been hot, man. So there's been several people coming at us about movies. But you know, our agent handles all that. You know, we'll see what happens.
Who would you like?
We would love to get a movie about Josh Gibson.
Yeah,
we would love to have one.
Play him?
Huh?
Who would you like to play him?
Somebody that's hot right now. Jamie Foxx, Will Smith.
Those are good, good choices.
Yeah. Denzel.
Denzel might be too old to play. He's gonna play him later. But he was young when he died, so all great. I love all of them. Will Smith, very underrated actor in my eyes, but I guess can't be that underrated because he's getting paid a ton of money. But some of his movies, like the movie like Hitch, and I love some of his older stuff. Just really, really good. What do you have a favorite baseball movie?
Not really.
No.
I like a lot of the movies that was out. 42, of course, was one of my favorite.
My friend Rob said you forgot Michael B.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan would be good too. Yeah. I would say 42 was one of my favorite. What
would he have thought of the game today? I mean, I know that's a tough question, being that you never met him, but I know you probably know a lot about him and the family and his son. And what would you think of the game and the way that the progress that they've made from 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and some of the rule changes? And what do you think he would think?
Well, one, think that one. I think he'll say that the ballparks are a lot smaller compared to when he was playing. I mean, you're talking about when he was playing 500 feet, 457. I mean, compared to now, I mean, if Josh is playing these fields now, man, he might have over 1,000 home runs. So
he would have definitely been hitting lefty. Some of those short.
I will say this, and it's not just baseball related. I'm just talking about is African American in general. When you talk about everything that goes on with African Americans, Josh Gibson been dead since 1947, right? And he played in the Negro Leagues. And of course, we all know what he went through dealing with the racism. And I'm pretty sure he's up there looking like, wow, I would never imagine that my family is still going through some of the same things
that's
I went through.
Crazy about it. Like, there's so much progress, but to think that some of the stuff that still goes on, it's insane.
Some of the same stuff was going on when he was alive.
Yeah. Now, did you see One Night in Miami? I mean, would he maybe have been a Malcolm X, a Muhammad Ali type, Jim Brown type figure? Because it sounds like he might have wanted to be.
Josh was more reserved, man. I don't know. I saw that movie though. He was more reserved. He was more of a family man. So but everybody has their fun nights. So he might have would have hung out in Miami, had a good time for a little bit.
Yeah.
But he was more. From what I was told, he was more of a family man. He was more. One thing people don't know is that he was very into etiquette. He used to always my family used to always tell me when he came back, he was real into etiquette about how the table was set, and especially with the young ladies, making sure that it was, were well groomed and kept upright and held high standards. He's like the dance. He was a dancer as well too. So, but yeah, so he might have been in Miami partying for a day.
Yeah. It's interesting because I talk a lot about movies, and I do it because there's so much truth in movies, and there's so many good lessons to be learned in movies. I look at something like Remember the Titans, Denzel with the high school. I look at a movie like School Ties. It's another football movie. I don't know if you're familiar with Brendan Fraser, where he was Jewish, and they pretended not to be Jewish so he could play on this prestigious football team. But all this stuff is happening out there. And it's got to come to light. It can't just be like, oh, well, that's just stuff happens in the movies. No, this is real stuff that's happening to people, and all different types of people. And in 2021, to think that some of this stuff is still going on is ridiculous to me. So we're Ticket Time Machine. Me personally, we're a champion for equality, and that means color, that means sex, sexual orientation, all of that stuff. So we're happy to help in any way we can. We'll get you out on a couple rapid fire questions that we like to do. Do you have a bucket list event that you haven't been to that you would love to get to? Yeah, like a sporting event.
I'm trying to think. I've been to the Super Bowl. I've been to a World Series. I've never been to an NBA's final.
No,
NBA's final.
Who's your team? Are you a Sixers? I mean, you're kind of far away from.
Yeah, I'm a LeBron James fan, so I'll follow him. See, we don't have a team in Pittsburgh, so we got to follow. We got to follow other teams. So
why don't they have a team in Pittsburgh?
I don't know, man. We had one years ago called the Pittsburgh Pipers.
But they don't talk about it with expansion. I mean, you talk anywhere you got football, baseball, and hockey, you might as well try and get basketball in there. But it's interesting. I don't know what that is. Do you have a favorite place to travel? It could be in the U.S. or outside the U.S.
Dubai. That's my next place. Yep.
You've been there or you haven't?
No, that's my bucket list.
Yeah, so that's great. I have a friend who does business in Dubai. He does conferences. He's in big name in the dental world. Son, his name is, and he says unbelievable things about that place. It just looks like, it almost seems like the stuff you see is like futuristic, like
unreal, huh?
Right? It just doesn't look real to me. Well, that's great. Last question, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how people can help and get in touch with you. I ask this for everyone. I'm going to make it come true one day. You have 24 hours where you can spend with one person who's living. It can't be a family member. Who are you picking, and what are you guys going to do?
If I got one person to pick?
Yeah, 24 hours. You can hang out with anyone in the world. They have to be alive. Doesn't have to be sports. Who are you going to pick, and what are you guys going to do?
He doesn't have to be alive, you said?
He has to be alive, yeah.
He has to be alive now?
Yeah, I gotta try and make this happen for one of my guests.
Okay. Oh, man, let me see. I'm trying to think.
It could be an athlete, it could be a public figure, it could be anything, an athlete. I assume some of this stuff you can get just being who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah. A lot of the people that I would like to meet are dead.
Yeah. No, I know. That's why it's a tough question sometimes.
Well, if you go this anybody, I'll say I would like to meet Denzel Washington.
Okay. It's on
the reason why too is because he bought all the August Wilson plays. August Wilson's a playwright from Pittsburgh. And he did the movie Fences, which is based on a Negro League player going to be a Negro. So I would
the award. Do you know what won the award that year? Because I thought that was the best movie of the year. Yeah. I have to go look back at it, but that was a great movie.
I don't remember about a movie on Josh Gibson.
Yeah. That's what you want to talk to him about.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to try and make it happen. Look, I really appreciate your time. I know you're making some big rounds here. You said you're going to be on ABC, right? Is that something people could watch?
Yeah. 7 o'clock tonight.
7 o'clock tonight. ABC. Hear more about Josh Gibson Foundation and what they're doing. Tell everybody again how they can get in touch with you, how they can help, how they can support everything that you guys are doing.
Sure. One, you can support by buying our MVP campaign T-shirts. They're on our website. The website's on the screen. For more information about our foundation, you go to joshgibson.org. For more information about the MVP campaign, go to jg20mvp.com. And, you can read up about us. Here are the great things that we're doing here in the city of Pittsburgh. Here are all the great things we're doing behind the campaign. And, of course, all the great things we're doing for the Negro Leagues in general. So I want to thank you, Matt, for having me. This was a great hour. We never met in person, so it's finally see your face. We connected on LinkedIn. So
hope to be at your events later in the year. We're looking forward to being a part of what you guys are doing. And
hopefully we can, like I said, definitely be involved in that as well too.
Yeah, great. So everyone, go to jg20mvp.com. Go to joshgibson.org. Support the cause. Let's elevate the campaign and help make this happen. And I really appreciate your time here. Look forward to future conversations. And until next week, have a great weekend. Have a great night. Stay safe, be well, and do some good things out there for other people. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks a lot, Sean.